This is Crosville 716, which is a 1933 Leyland Cub, and it's been restored over a 7-year period for the museum, and it's been adapted to carry visitors who need to use wheelchairs in order to access the museum. The work was completed in June 2021. As I say, it's been a 7-year process of restoration, and it'd be fair to say it's been one of the more challenging restorations undertaken on a motor bus such as this. Number 716 was delivered to Crosville in early 1933, although it was first registered on the 8th of September 1932, and it's one of a batch of this type that was supplied to the London, Midlands and Scottish Railway owned Crosville Motor Services at the time. It's finished in the LMS coaching stock crimson livery, and with Crosville proudly emblazoned on its side panels in gold, the Cub was a very attractive small bus for its operator. In 1935 it was renumbered N33, the N denoting normal control, i.e. it has a bonnet in front of the driving position as opposed to the forward control alternative where the driver sits alongside the engine. It's built on a Leyland Cub KP2 chassis, which is number 982, with a 14-foot wheelbase, and is originally fitted with the 20-seater body manufactured by Brush of Loughborough. It was quite common for operators to choose a chassis, then either build their own body onto this or use one of the many bodybuilders that specialised in such work. In fact, it was fairly unusual to find a chassis builder who could also provide the body, as the disciplines of flexibility required for each were quite separate. The Crosville company has its origins in Chester in 1906, but it grew to encompass large areas of central western England and Wales. In 1928, the Railways Road Transport Act gave the big four railway companies the chance to develop bus services. Rather than starting from scratch, they exerted their power to buy into or buy out existing bus operators, and in February 1929 the London, Midlands and Scottish Railway purchased Crosville for £400,000. In 1960 it was sold to a builder in Prestatyn, where it was to serve another decade as a site office and reception area. Sometime between 1950 and 1960 it was fitted with a later design of Leyland radiator, which had a deeper profile and which quite markedly changed the appearance of the front of the bus. Later on it was saved for preservation by the renowned bus preservationist Tom Hollis, moving to his yard in Queensferry. In 1984 David Moores purchased the bus and placed it in store at Daresbury in Cheshire, where it remained until June 2014 when it was purchased by Beamish for restoration and adaptation. The Cub is thought to have been withdrawn from passenger service in around 1950, being converted for use as a mobile inquiry office for Crosville excursions, and it was renumbered 64A in the non-passenger fleet series. By this time it had also lost its original livery and was wearing the later Crosville cream and green scheme. Most of the vehicle has been restored to its original specification in what is a fairly conventional way: mechanical overhaul, body, rear wheels and so on. What makes this vehicle particularly special, and what made the project so interesting to funders and to the museum for its future use, was the adaptations that enable it to carry wheelchairs. These are fairly significant and they do change the appearance at the rear of the vehicle. However, the solution that was arrived at by the second contractor on the project, Gardeners, was quite a neat one, which was to make the rear doors look like they were part of a destination box or information board at the back of the vehicle. We've also got two doors where there was originally one emergency exit. So going through the vehicle, we've got the lift underneath and we've got two doors here. As you can see, when open, these give quite a lot of space in order for people in wheelchairs to access and egress the bus. Whilst externally there's very little change to the appearance of the bus, internally there is quite a significant amount of change, and that's principally to accommodate the wheelchairs in this front area here. So working from the back to the front, we've got the access doors that we've seen before. We've got a wide aisle between the rear wheel arches with seating for up to 8 people to sit on the longitudinal seating there. We've then got 8 of these tip-up seats at the front, so this gives us the flexibility to carry ambulant passengers or wheelchairs. Tracking in the floor for securing wheelchairs, and then the other features within this part of the bus are period, or as close to period as we can make them. So we've changed the light fittings to low profile ones, but they're still an old-fashioned design. This was because the originals would have protruded into the saloon and would have obviously been a risk for people banging their heads off. Restored ventilator, and there's an air vent on the roof of the bus. We've got a curtain and a screen behind the driver. This is to it's part of our COVID precautions, but it's also a useful feature when we're running at night in order to prevent glare on the windscreen. Bulkhead here. The original buses from photographs weren't fitted with these, so it would have left passengers who were sat in this area quite exposed to the doorway. Otherwise, the front end is more or less as it would have originally been. So you've got the driver's seat, which is now adjustable in order to accommodate a range of sizes and leg lengths. The driver's controls are to one side, and the battery lives in a console there. And we have to have a heavy duty battery because of the operation of the lift, which draws the current from that. At the front, one of the more pleasing features is the mechanical door operation, which enables the driver to operate on a one-man basis. So that's been replicated from original components. We've got a period fire extinguisher here, which we're quite pleased with. That's the screen wash tank. Console, which for now has a digital GPS speedo, because we don't have a speedo drive on the gearbox, and that's something we'd like to revisit in the future. But as you can see, it's a very simple driving position for the driver: 4-speed gearbox, handbrake, and the conventional arrangement of pedals. We do have the luxury of a windscreen wiper. There's the replica transfer, which we've seen in one of the slides earlier. But otherwise, that's it. The floor is a modern finish in order to be durable and serve its purpose at Beamish. And the windows, whilst the catches are a modern equivalent, we were unable to restore the originals, but they are dropped down for ventilation, so we can give the passengers some comfort, because they can get quite hot inside these vehicles. That in a nutshell is the internal arrangement of the bus now. Another addition to the vehicle, which it didn't originally have, are screen washers, which are quite useful in the very dusty environment that you find on the roads at Beamish. In order to provide an interesting means of operating these, the pump is under the bonnet, but we've got a period fire extinguisher with a rubber hose running from it, and that's the water tank for the screen wash. Overall, the aim with this vehicle is to give people the experience of travelling in a 1933 bus, that they shouldn't notice too much the adaptations that have been made, and that it should feel as every bit as a decent quality as the Rotherham bus or the Darlington bus can offer visitors. We've also standardised the fixtures and fittings, so the tracks in the floor, the lift itself, are all of the same type that are used on the existing wheelchair accessible vehicle, J2007. So hopefully those people who use this bus will kind of get a sense of the past and so on, but with the safety of the 21st century.